Hello my friends and welcome back. In this video I'm going to talk to you about the turning points of a polynomial function. So let's just jump right into it. So the turning points of a graph are where the graph changes from increasing to decreasing. So turning points of a polynomial graph are points on the graph where the graph changes directions. So either it moves from increasing to decreasing or from decreasing to increasing, it's going to change directions. And if I have a function of degree n, the degree of my function is n, has at most n minus 1 turning points. It could have fewer than that, but that's kind of the ceiling for turning points. And in case you were wondering what a degree is, don't worry, I'm going to remind you. So let's do an example, and I'll show you a little example of what that looks like on Desmos, and we can kind of understand increasing, decreasing, get an idea. So let's take a look at this function. We'll say the graph in a second, and that'll help us. Let's say I have f of x is equal to x to the fourth minus x cubed minus 4x squared plus 4x. Now the degree of this function, what that is, here, let's go ahead and highlight that. Let's make that, give you guys a little definition in case you forgot. So the degree of the function is the largest exponent that you see in the function. I ran out of room to write exponent. Your notes better be better than mine, guys. So here we have exponents 4, 3, 2, and then this invisible exponent of 1. So because 4 is the largest exponent, the degree of this function is 4. So the degree of f is 4. So how many turning points could this graph have? Well, we know that it's going to have at most the degree minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is equal to 3. So f has at most 3 turning points. So what that means, f could have 1, 2, or 3 turning points, but it would not have 5 turning points, for example. All right, so let's take a look at what those turning points look like, and then I think that'll help a little bit, and then we'll wrap this one up. So here's our graph. I promised you a graph on Desmos, and I'm going to count some turning points for you. Here's 1 turning point, a 2nd turning point, and a 3rd turning point. So this graph happens to have 3 turning points. It could have had 2 or 1, but there's no way it could have had 4 because the degree is 4. All right, and I want to talk a little bit about increasing and decreasing because that's a topic that students usually have some trouble with. So I'm going to start on the left side of the graph, and you see this point here, -2 and change, comma 7 and change. So when you talk about increasing or decreasing, what you're talking about is the output value or the y value. So watch this y value here as I move the point along the graph. That y value is decreasing, still decreasing below the x-axis, decreasing, decreasing, decreasing. Then we hit this turning point, and now the value's increasing. Increasing, increasing. Hit this turning point, and now the value is decreasing again until we hit our last turning point and then become increasing. So that's what's meant by decreasing and increasing. One thing that you can use to kind of help yourself visualize this a little bit is if you kind of look at, let's get me a copy I can sketch on top of to help you guys with. So if you look at this graph and you imagine that you had a tangent line to this point right here, let's say. A tangent line being a line that touches the graph at only one point. So let's say you had a little tangent line right here. The slope of that line is negative because we have a decreasing graph. And then after the turning point, our first turning point, if I try to draw another graph, another tangent line, the slope of that would be positive. That's another way that you could think of it. Get the arrow out of the way. All right, but I think for me, the easiest way for me to remember is just if I imagine there's a point and I'm reading from left to right on my graph, that point travels down, and up again. And while we're going down, it's decreasing. Up is increasing, down, and then up again. All right, maybe that was a little bit too much for some of you, maybe not quite enough for others of you. Write down your questions and bring them to me in class. We really love to hear them.